A pre-mortem technique enables its users to imagine and correct future problems before they occur. Sandbach and Klein placed emphasis on both expertise and environment as being factors that contributed to the accuracy of decisions made under pressure. In instances of moderate environmental pressure, they discovered that both moderately experienced and more greatly experienced individuals made consistently accurate decisions. However, when environmental pressure increased, the judgment of the moderately experienced was less accurate than the highly experienced. Sandbach and Klein concluded that experience was more important than confidence. They proposed that by enabling individuals to fast-track their experience, the accuracy of decision-making under high-pressure situations could improve. Additionally, Klein cited research by the University of Colorado on the concept of prospective hindsight. This research suggested that by imagining an event had already occurred, the ability to correctly identify reasons for future outcomes could increase by up to 30%. The premortem was launched as a technique by Gary Klein in 2007. Subsequently, the technique has been endorsed by several others as a technique to challenge key assumptions, discover unknowns, anticipate the unanticipated, and avoid instances of groupthink. The purpose of the premortem technique is to reduce the chances of unpleasant surprises during implementation that could possibly deter the success of a plan. By participating in the premortem activity, key assumptions are challenged and unknown information can be discovered. Surratt proposes a premortem should take place after a plan is developed, but prior to its launch. Those involved in the premortem are generally a small group. The work of Vinat, Klein, and Wiggins describe the optional possibility of a facilitator. However, the participation of those that were actively involved in creating the proposed plan is essential. For a successful premortem analysis, the physical environment should be arranged to include opportunity for both individual and collaborative brainstorming. Example materials might include a small meeting room, multiple tables, individual writing tools, and a facilitator flip chart. This simply allows for group members to brainstorm possible unforeseen issues and then collectively display them for group discussion. Klein stresses that most importantly, members should candidly express concerns and remove bias in their discussion. The benefit of candid discussion results in the reduction of overconfidence, which is purposeful in improving the plan and its implementation. Bergquist describes the risk of overconfidence as a neglect of strength and strategies, an overestimation of our own strengths, the failure to acknowledge unanticipated impacts, the failure to acknowledge and admit there are things that we don't know, and the failure to understand the change curve that will inevitably take place during a new initiative. Considering these risks, when the premortem is used effectively, it benefits members through the realization of possible missing data or information prior to the launch of an initiative. The team must not react from a defensive stance and provide opportunity to identify weaknesses rather than shielding flaws. Time engaged in the premortem technique can range from as little as 30 minutes to 2 hours. Therefore, the simplicity of the technique provides a high payoff with very little cost, making for a high return on investment. Prior to beginning a premortem, it is necessary to bring together participants. This is best accomplished in a face-to-face meeting and should include project team members, key stakeholders, and customer groups. Once invited to participate in the premortem, it is essential that all participants be familiar with the project details. At least 1 week prior to the session, make sure that all participants have received copies of the project details. In order to allow participants to concentrate on the premortem session, identify people outside of the project team to assist with recording and note-taking during the premortem session. Make sure that the session room is properly prepared with all technology needed and materials are provided for those involved. Key components for the premortem may be a flip chart, blank paper, writing utensils, and post-it notes. During the session, the facilitator will welcome participants and make introductions as needed. This is to develop a sense of acceptance in order to engage participants. The facilitator will confirm that note-takers are prepared to record key questions, discussion points, decisions, and required actions. The action may become very fast-paced. It is essential that the note-taker be able to keep up. The facilitator will pose the scenario in a manner similar to this. Using your imagination, envision that the project has been implemented and we are now several months into the future. Despite all of our planning and hard work, the project has become a total failure. You now need to determine how and why this failure has occurred. Take the next 10 minutes and write down as many reasons as you can come up with as to why this failure has occurred. The participants will then spend the next 10 minutes hastily jotting down all of their ideas as to why the project failed. At the conclusion of the 10-minute brainstorming session, the facilitator will go around the room and have each participant provide one of their reasons for failure. The note-taker will write each reason on post-it notes and place these notes on the flip chart. The facilitator will continue to go around the room until all ideas have been presented with the items grouped. Working with the participants, the facilitator will determine which ideas presented are external factors over which they have no control. These items can be eliminated before moving ahead. Next, the facilitator will continue working with the participants to prioritize the remaining reasons for failure in terms of severity and likeliness to occur. Finally, the group will identify preventative actions that would address the severe and likely failures. These actions should be collectively owned by the group, and timing for their occurrence should be determined. After the premortem session and the project moves forward, the group should incorporate the preventative actions developed in session into the project plan. Any unresolved items from the session will need follow-up. As milestones are achieved in the project, the group will need to keep an eye on the timing of preventative actions. They should review the project in order to assure that risks have been mitigated, and finally, celebrate the success of the project. The Premortem technique provides an opportunity for participants to focus on the what-ifs of a situation. They can freely consider possibilities of failure because the intent is to then develop ways to address the possible failure. As participants progress through the failure scenario, they develop an understanding of the inherent uncertainty of the future and think of ways to address contingencies that might otherwise have been ignored or not considered. With an acceptance of the possibility of failure, it is possible to identify early warning signs that the project is not moving forward as anticipated. Using these early warning signs as markers, project performance can be analyzed to ensure success or early detection of the need for corrective action. When developing a plan for change, it is common for the individuals involved in an organization to hold bias. A benefit of using the premortem strategy is that it provides a structure in which the developing team is taken out of a context in which they must defend their plan and instead identify and strengthen weaknesses. The process is aimed towards the realization of missing information or data. Being simple in nature, the premortem technique offers large benefits with low costs and time and resources. The premortem technique is highly dependent upon candid conversations and a conscious effort to identify any weaknesses in a plan. While simple to conduct, without the ability to sincerely reflect, efforts to improve implementation will be futile. As Fullen states, when people experience something new, it connects with their feelings first, then their minds. This emotional attachment can hinder a plan's success. A growth mindset, the ability to set aside bias, and honest conversations are critical for success when using the premortem technique.